There's not much advice you'll receive when building a community more common than the need to find a niche. We've talked about it a lot on this channel, from KP, the Build in Public guy, to Thomas Frank, the productivity guy. But today we're going to be looking at an example of somebody who's built an incredibly engaged community that generates $30,000 a month in revenue while pretty much ignoring the advice of serving a niche. If you've struggled with the concept and limitations of serving a niche, then today's teardown on Tom Noske is for you. By the way, if you're new to the channel, my name's Tom and this is the Community Lab. Here we tear down the world's best communities so you have the tool and strategies to go and build your own. And if you want the highest signal advice on how to build a community, you can check out our playbook, The Community Building Gods, which has some incredible examples of community builders and the strategies that they use. If you don't know Tom, at his heart, he's a videographer, and if you were to watch his beautiful videos and the fact that he makes most of his income from selling custom LUTs, which is a way for other filmmakers to make their footage look better, you would expect that he would follow the advice of niching down and really serving that community. You'd expect to see all of his videos being focused on his camera setup, on lighting, on editing techniques, but actually you'd be surprised. Looking through his Instagram, you'd be just as likely to find a video of him running or on a bike ride as you would of him showing some fancy camera technique. And that's because for Tom, his medium is his message, which leads us on to our first lesson. The quality and time Tom pours into each of his reels becomes the content. Of course, he layers this with his interests, which we'll come to later, but predominantly Tom is about creating art and sharing it with the world. I could watch Tom's running content for hours, even though I have no interest in running, because the storytelling is so good and his technical capability and excellence is there. It's just something that I want to watch. Tom may not have a consistent niche, but he does have a consistent medium. So let's take a look at an example. So here, he's always using the same filters on all of his content and very, very similar cinematic techniques. Even the text and the styles he uses on his video is very, very similar throughout. And this reminds me of Jack Butcher, who we discussed a few weeks ago, as someone who's just being very, very consistent with their aesthetic. And because of this, as soon as I see a Tom Noske production, I know it's created by him. The same with Jack Butcher. I resonate with the aesthetic, even though I don't necessarily resonate with all of the content. And that is often enough to build a community around. So before even talking about his different interests, Tom's built a solid foundation of which to communicate with his community. And this is something that we can take as a lesson here. When thinking about the content that you're putting out, really take that time to understand the different components and elements that are going to go into it. What kind of animations are you going to use? What kind of filter on your camera are going to use? What's your lighting setup going to be? When you write, what style are you going to write with? You know, there's some people on Twitter out there who, again, I don't necessarily agree with or resonate with their content so much, but I just love the writing style and the way that they present themselves so much that it's something that I engage in. And if you can take the time to figure this out, then when it comes to actually laying your interests on top of the medium, building that community is going to be so much easier. And we'll get to Tom's interests now. So the next lesson we're going to take from Tom is, rather than picking a niche, just talk about your interests. Now, I can't explain his view better on this than he can, so let's watch this quick video that helps us understand Tom's mindset when it comes to creating content.
A niche, honestly. It never made sense to me to lean into a niche because it completely eliminates your ability to be yourself in your content. Because when you do finally lean into being you, you become unique. You stick out like a sore thumb because no one can replicate you like you. Your unique combination of interests coupled with your personality and then brought together in your unique way of sharing things puts you into a category of one. You become the only. And when you become the only, it no longer matters what you create content on. The niche doesn't matter anymore because people will like your work for you. Being unique isn't this process of coming up with crazy original ideas. Being unique is just stacking all of your obsessions on top of each other over and over again until you build a perspective that cannot cannot be found anywhere else.
Tom's quite clear in his opinion here. Niches aren't sustainable because you'll just get bored with them and burn out. Instead, Tom talks about what he's interested in, from running to cycling to desk setups. Anything that is part of him is part of the content that he puts out there. He, in a way, has created his own weird niche because he is the niche. It's his unique view on the world that is the content and the community that he's building. This reminds me of Thomas Frank's phrase of passion mashing. So passion mashing is when you have a core niche. In Thomas's case, it was productivity, and then you add in a load of different passions that help kind of build a more unique persona around you and really attract the community that you're building towards. Tom's approach is slightly different. He doesn't have that core niche. He just has a load of different interests, but then bundled together, they are in their own way enough to build a community around. So here's a key takeaway for you. Grab a pen and just start writing down all of the things that you're interested in. So for me, I have community and startups. These are the core things that drive a lot of my kind of daily hours that I work on and a lot of the content that I share. But I also have a load of other interests. I have jiu-jitsu, I have weightlifting, I have reading, I have cooking. And what I'm going to start to do is actually incorporate more of this into the content that I put out. So I'm taking what I'm calling the Tom Noske challenge. For the next 3 months, I'm going to be writing about all the different niches that I'm interested in, putting it out there and seeing what happens. And if you're interested in joining me on this journey, please leave a comment below and we can hold each other accountable. Okay, so we did talk about this final rule with Thomas Frank a couple of videos ago, but it's so important to Tom's success that I do think it's worth highlighting in this video, and that is playing the infinite game. So there's this great quote by Naval that says, "What feels like play to you, but looks like work to others." And when you kind of view life in this way of things that you just generally enjoy doing, you're putting yourself in the mindset of playing the infinite game. So many people and communities out there are built around niches which are unsustainable, that the person creating the community isn't going to be interested in for the long term because they feel some kind of duty to write about this niche again and again and again. They're going to get bored, they're going to get burnt out. But what Tom's managed to do is actually create a community around the things that he's just generally interested in. If there was nobody watching his videos, he would still be creating films of him out cycling. He would still be tampering with his little desk setup, trying to get it absolutely optimal for him and sharing that along the way. And this is what you need to bear in mind when building a community. Do not start something unless you're absolutely confident that you can be doing it for the rest of your life. It's the same advice I give to people when they're trying to lose weight. Don't make any changes to your diet that you can't see yourself doing forever, because all that's going to happen is you're going to gain that weight back again because you basically pick something that's unsustainable. The exact same thing applies to when building a community. Think about what you're doing already and how you can maybe double down on that and just share it with the world. This is the best way to build a community that has longevity that you can be doing for years at a time. So as you can see, there's a lot we can learn from Tom about community building, and a lot of it quite counterintuitive advice. The first thing we talked about was how the medium is the message. Tom creates beautiful films with incredible storytelling, such that the content almost doesn't matter in some ways, because anyone who likes and vibes with the aesthetic that he's giving out will want to consume the content he's putting out just because it's so engaging and so well put together. The next lesson we took was talking about our interests rather than picking a niche. And this is, I think, particularly helpful for people who've perhaps tried to pick a niche in the past but struggle to stick through with it. If you can take a leaf out of Tom's book, just find all of your different interests and in a high quality way, start talking about them. Finally, we talked about playing the infinite game, which ties into both of the first two lessons, but really making sure that before we set out on our community building journey, we're doing something that we can see ourselves doing for the rest of our life, because likely this is going to take time. So thanks a lot for tuning into that. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe to the channel, follow me on Twitter, wherever you're seeing this, and also make sure you check out that ebook of the community building gods. Really is a lot of high signal advice in there on how to build a community. But thanks a lot and enjoy the rest of your day.